Although we kinda knew it was coming, we also kinda thought we knew what to expect, but it seems that GW have decided to throw us a little bit of a curveball, and an entirely brand new combat patrol is on the way for the Adeptus Mechanicus. And quite nicely on top of that, it appears that you will be able to use this new one, which is presumably coming in the Codex, as well as the current one that was released when 10th edition initially came out, which is the Manipul Veresk Alpha Patrol. The new one in the Codex is called the Purge Corps Deltic 9, so you are going to have two different options for an army to bring in your games of Combat Patrol going forward for the AdMech, which is really quite cool, and I hope they do bring out some new alternative Combat Patrols for the other armies, so that if you are very focused on that style of playing, on small little armies that you can put together easily and quickly and just get some easy games in, you do have a bit more choice than just that one combat patrol, which most armies have at the moment. But let's take a look at this new one in particular and compare the two of them together and see what is in each and which one is going to be the better value, both in terms of money and in terms of points. The current Combat Patrol, which you can still buy at the moment from GW for £95, Manipul Veresk Alpha, consists of an Engine Seer, 3 Cataphron Destroyers, 10 Skitari Rangers, and an Onager Dunecrawler. This, all told, comes to a total of £142.50, so getting it inside the £95 box gets you a saving of £47.50, basically netting you the £50 Dunecrawler for absolutely free. When you compare that to the new Combat Patrol, which is coming in the Codex, again, I'm going to assume this will probably come in with that same £95 price tag. The new one contains a Tech Priest Manipulus, 10 Vanguard, 5 Taraxi Sterilizers, and 3 of the fast-moving Cerberus Sulphur Hounds. So this is much more of a speedy, quick strike style combat patrol, and again, like I mentioned, I like the fact that you will now have a bit more option in terms of how you want to play your combat patrol, even if you do want to stick with a particular army. Like the AdMech, it does add a bit more variety to the game system and helps you get a bit more of a feel for the army and the different ways it can play while still having a reasonably cheap point of entry. But all in, that new combat patrol comes to it's slightly less good value. This all comes to £132.50, so you are making around a £10 less overall saving by buying the £95 box. All told, you make a £37.50 saving, so again, you are basically getting one of the 4 units for free, in the case of the new box, either the Sulphur Hounds or the Taraxi. So in general terms, it is a bit less good value compared to the older box, compared to the Veresk Alpha Manipul. It roughly represents a 30% saving, whilst the Veresk Alpha current box from 10th edition is around a 35% saving. So it's not a huge difference, but there is slightly more value for your money by buying the current box rather than waiting for the new one to come with the Codex. On the points front, however, there is a bit more of a difference. The Manipul Veresk Alpha consists of a 40-point Engine Seer, 115 points for the Cataphron Destroyers, 90 points for the Rangers, and 140 points for the Dunecrawler. All in, that is around 385 points worth of models. The new box, on the other hand, gets you a 55-point Manipulus, 80 points of a Vanguard, 55 points for the Sulphur Hounds, and 70 points for the Taraxi, which, if you are even vaguely good at maths, you can probably already tell that is significantly less points. This new box comes to around 260 points, so it's over 100 points less than the 385 points you get in the original Combat Patrol box, so you are getting significantly less in terms of overall models when it comes to how many points you can put together for an army. And I think all in all, that doesn't make the new box particularly attractive. Now, I think it's fair to say, obviously, if you are just looking at these boxes for Combat Patrol, they are all meant to be balanced and meant to be fairly even. So presumably, all the rules and extra bits you can take advantage of in this new box, in the new Combat Patrol, will help to balance this all out. Certainly in terms of the rules that they showed off today, the new Purge Core does have some relatively nice enhancements. You can take the Aspergilla of Tarentum for a -1 to be wounded by enemy attacks for the bearer and his unit, or the overcharged Electropositors to grant him and his unit +6 inches of range and ignores cover on their weapons, which will definitely bring a lot of extra firepower or a lot of extra durability to your Manipulus and his squad of Vanguard. So I think in terms of purely a combat patrol sort of enclosed system, there may not be a huge discrepancy, because whilst you are on the face of it getting less value in terms of points, they can balance it out with how the rules are and how the kind of data sheets are written for use in combat patrol. But in terms of buying these boxes to get units to either start an army or buy just more stuff for your existing AdMech army for your bigger, fuller games of 40k, this new set seems really quite bad value, I think. It's less bang for your buck financially. It saves you £37.50 rather than the £47.50 of the mana pool. And then on top of that, you are netting 100 points less than you do with the original Combat Patrol. So if it was me and I was looking to buy some new units for my AdMech, or just simply I wanted to start an AdMech army, I would definitely be looking at going and picking up a copy of the current Combat Patrol. You know, you get the Onager and the Destroyers, which to me just seem like more generally all-round useful units compared to the Doggos and the Bird Boys. You still get the same 10 troops, albeit slightly differently. You get the Rangers instead of the Vanguard, and then both of them have that fairly generic but obviously necessary HQ in either the Enginseer or the Manipulus. It just seems like the current box that came along with the drop of 10th edition is the better box overall, and I don't think we know for sure if it's actually going to stick around as purchasable when this new Combat Patrol hits. They have confirmed the rules for the original box will still be usable, but the box itself, that £95 box containing all of this, might end up going away. So I wouldn't wait personally for this new Combat Patrol to come with the Codex. It's not as good in terms of overall rules and mechanics if you want to use it in games of 40k. It's less points, and you are essentially at the end of the day paying more money for less in the box. Of course, if you only play Combat Patrol and you like the style of this army, it may be worth picking up and waiting for, but if you have any inclination of using any of these units in bigger, fuller games of 40k in any way, I personally would be going out and getting the current Combat Patrol rather than waiting for this new one. I just think it is better in every single way, and you are essentially getting more for your money. So that is the brand new AdMech Combat Patrol. As I said at the beginning, it is nice that you now have a choice of 2 to take in games of Combat Patrol, but I just think that the new one isn't quite as good. It's more expensive comparatively, and in terms of the points you get for porting it over to 40k, it's just vastly less efficient. And in terms of rules, in terms of bigger games of 40k, I also think the units in there are vastly less efficient than going out and buying the current one, the Manipul Verask Alpha. But as always, I would really love to know what your thoughts are on this new Combat Patrol. Is it any good, or do you think that the current one is the better option? Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if you are going to be picking up this new one, or you would just prefer to get the old one if you were going to start an AdMech army. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. But until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.